Air Force Two carried conservative activist Charlie Kirk's casket back to his home state of Arizona on Thursday. According to Associated Press, a funeral is being planned, and Trump said earlier in the day that he's planning to attend. When the plane arrived, Second Lady Usha Vance stepped off with Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika. Both women wore black and sunglasses. Vice President JD Vance was a few steps behind them, wearing a dark suit. Kirk's assassination renews attention to escalating threats of political violence in the United States that cut across the ideological spectrum. His killing is drawing bipartisan condemnation, but a national reckoning over ways to prevent political grievances from manifesting as deadly violence appears elusive. The FBI released photos of what it's calling a person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a Utah college campus Wednesday. According to Associated Press, investigators released 2 images Thursday of the person and appealed for tips to help solve the shooting of Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist and close ally of President Donald Trump who played an influential role in rallying young Republican voters. The unidentified suspect is believed to have jumped off a roof and fled into a neighborhood after firing one shot, authorities said Thursday. A high-powered, bolt-action rifle they believe was used in the attack was recovered, and video recordings of the person they believe was responsible are being reviewed. Kirk's assassination renews attention to escalating threats of political violence in the United States that cut across the ideological spectrum. His killing is drawing bipartisan condemnation, but a national reckoning over ways to prevent political grievances from manifesting as deadly violence appears elusive. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday fired the country's ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, over his links to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. According to Associated Press, in a statement in the House of Commons on Thursday, Foreign Office Minister Stephen Doughty said the decision came in the wake of the publication this week of emails Mandelson sent to Epstein in the 2000s, in which he gave his support to the disgraced financier even when he was facing jail for sex offenses. Doughty said the emails showed that the depth and extent of Mandelson's relationship with Epstein was materially different from what was known when he was appointed ambassador to Washington last year in the wake of the Labour Party's election victory. Mandelson, who took up his post in February this year after what the government described as an extensive vetting process, has voiced his deep regret over his previous links with Epstein and said he knew nothing about his criminal activities. In light of the additional information in the emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States, Doughty said. In particular, he pointed to Mandelson's suggestion that Epstein's first conviction in 2008 was wrongful and should be challenged. On Wednesday, the Sun newspaper published emails that it said showed Mandelson telling Epstein to fight for early release shortly before he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. "I think the world of you," Mandelson told him before he began his sentence for soliciting prostitution from a minor. The decision to fire Mandelson comes just a day after Starmer said he had confidence in him. It's the latest blow to the Prime Minister ahead of a state visit by U.S. President Donald Trump to the UK next week, which is likely to be met with protests and some controversy. Last week Starmer also saw his deputy, Angela Rayner, quit over a tax error on a home purchase. The government said James Roscoe, the UK deputy head of mission in Washington, will serve as interim ambassador and oversee Trump's state visit. Roscoe is a career diplomat and former communications chief to the late Queen Elizabeth II. Starmer's judgment is being increasingly questioned, particularly over his appointment of Mandelson, who is no stranger to controversy, having twice resigned from former Prime Minister Tony Blair's government in 1998 and 2001.
Thank you very much indeed in hosting us this morning. And thank you very much indeed also for that very typical 11th hour intervention by you with your phone call to the President, demanding even more out of this deal than any of us expected. So thank you for that.
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
He was in jail at the time for soliciting prostitution from a minor.
And my knowledge of him is something that I regret. I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
Why did you have an association with him? Because he was in jail at the time.
Why did many people meet him? He was a prolific networker, and I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
I'm a new Labour man to my core. What I want to do in Europe is to create an efficient social democratic way of thinking and working in Europe for the benefit of the British people and all European citizens.
Because it will give predictability, it will give certainty for traders.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. The issue for us in China, which is a very big issue indeed, right at the top of our list of concerns, is not so much the existence of legislation as its enforcement. Tolerating intellectual property theft is a dead end for China.
Official service today. Michael and myself are available.
Hello. How are you feeling, Mr. Mandelson?
Come back in. That's enough from you, Jamie. Thank you very much. Well, I very much enjoyed my work in Europe and working on trade and development issues. The Prime Minister has asked me to come back. Our economy, like every other, is facing a very hard challenge as a result of the global financial crisis, and in a sense it's all hands on deck. The answer to the needs of the poorest developing countries and developing countries as a whole